April is Financial Literacy Month, and all month long we've talked with experts offering strategies to help you manage your bottom line. Financial advisor Jeremy Shipp is back on Virginia this morning with ways to boost your money literacy. Jeremy, it's great to have you back.
Well, thanks for having me, Jessica. Great to be here.
I've seen the short list of the talking points that we're going to cover today, and it really, I paused on the first one because it's just money. And it seems like if you're learning about money, how can money be one of the points? But this is about literacy and gaining that education, and really sometimes we just hit fast forward and haven't stopped to read the fine print.
Right, we start to try and run before we walk. So think of it this way. Income is more of a theory where cash is a fact. What I mean by that is my experience meeting with hundreds of retirees, the number one indicator of success for them is not necessarily how much they earned while they were working, but how much they kept, okay? So how much they spent was more important than what they were bringing in. I mean, think about if you're making $1 million a year, but you're spending $1.2 million, you're, in kind of bad shape, okay? So the important thing here is you want to work in facts, not theories. In this case, facts are the cash in your back pocket.
And that's where maybe a budget comes into play because it's black and white.
That's right. I like to use the word spending plan because it's more of a psychological thing. I'm saving money so I can spend it. It's a lot easier to kind of put money away when we know we're going to be using it and enjoying it in the future. But yeah, that's very important, putting it down on paper and having something to work by.
I feel happier about making a spending plan than a budget. That's already a great lesson to learn.
There you go.
When you're thinking about money and the power that it has, of course, when you are able to keep some of it, you can put the power of interest behind it.
That's right. The power of compounding interest is very powerful. So as an example, let's say we have a 25-year-old who is able to put away $500 a month for retirement and earn a 6% rate of return. Well, when they get to be age 65, right around retirement age, they're going to have just at $1 million saved up. Compare that to a 35-year-old who, for whatever reason, couldn't save for those 10 years, but then picked it up at $500 a month at 35. Instead of having $1 million, now they're at close to $500,000. So that 10 years actually cost that individual $500,000 for their retirement. A very famous mathematician, Albert Einstein, was famous for saying compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. What most people don't remember is that he also gave a caveat to that, which is two things. It only works over time and as long as it's uninterrupted.
And interestingly, this might be level 201, but when you start looking at how much interest can cost you when you're maybe saving in a low interest and then not paying a high interest.
Right, that's one of the factors that can interrupt that compounding. Another factor that can interrupt that compounding are fees, expenses that you pay on that interest. And look, there is no free ride, right? We know it costs money to make money. But if you're not careful and you're not paying attention to what's going on, you could have the brakes put on your financial future. So if we go back to that 25-year-old putting $500 away, if he's paying a 1% management fee on his money, instead of having $1 million saved up, it's closer to $800,000 at that end point. So that little 1% fee can add up over time. It grows along with your money. Now, if instead of 1%, it's the average of 3.17% as reported by Forbes, instead of $1 million, he's back down to $500,000. So it's important, if you want to have a smooth ride getting to retirement, you want to have clarity on what it's costing you to earn that interest and understand there are both fees you can see and fees that you don't, but they both affect our money and how it grows.
And in many instances it can seem low, but obviously with that compounding and that ability to grow, it really can add up.
Right.
You talked about fees and expenses. Going back to, you mentioned retirees at the beginning. It's interesting that they were more comfortable with what they'd saved rather than what they'd spent. Is that what it was?
Yeah, and that's, it comes back to obviously the savings is what they have, what they can see. The spending, once it's gone, we never think about it anymore. So it's kind of out of mind, out of sight type of thing. So it has to do with making sure we have money so we can spend it in retirement, not just all along the way.
Let's talk to the millennials right now. Why is it so important, and where is it most important to start getting some of that if you can squirrel away? Yeah,
come back to the compounding interest, that example, that just shows them how early and often saving is important for retirement because most of that compound interest happens in those last few years, all right? The other thing to understand is that we have these different retirement accounts out there, like 401ks and IRAs, and important to think when you're thinking about starting to save what those accounts are really. And see, what happened is Uncle Sam developed ways for us to save for retirement. And the thing people should understand is putting money into those accounts, you're taking on Uncle Sam or the IRS as your retirement business partner. So what you're doing is you're not having to pay the taxes on that money today, which is pretty neat. Okay, we get to delay and not pay taxes and let it grow. But what you're doing is you're postponing those taxes to a time in the future at an uncertain tax rate when we don't know what the financial condition of this country could be or what your tax rate can be. So again, it comes back to clarity, having a good plan and understanding where I'm going to be in the future. And if you have no idea what taxes are going to be, it makes it kind of hard to plan that way.
Yeah. Even though these were a few of the basics, we covered a lot of ground, so it's important to work with a financial professional.
Absolutely. There's a lot of navigating out there, and it gets more confusing every day. So I encourage everyone to work with a good licensed fiduciary when it comes to their money.
Thanks for being back with us.
Well, thanks, Jessica. Appreciate it.
Great to see you.